Hi everyone, this is Noelle from Petitti's. We are doing a hot, dry annual combination for you today because I think we've kind of covered other topics. You know, we've done versatile containers that you can use in sun or shade, but this one's going to be for those hot, dry, sunny spots, especially for those of you that forget to water, which is okay, or maybe you're traveling a lot over the summer and you don't have somebody coming and you're able to have somebody come and water for you, or maybe they forget and they don't water that often. It's okay. A lot of these plant materials will really do very nicely in drier soil conditions in the ground and also in containers. So let's take a look here. First of all, with our container, we have about a 14-inch wide diameter container. It was filled with Petitti planting mix. The reason that we use planting mix in some larger containers is that it does have a composted bark in it, and that ends up retaining a little bit more moisture than your average potting soil. So don't get me wrong, we'll use Petitti potting soil in hanging baskets and different things, but when we get into bigger containers, it's nice to have that water holding capacity that we get from that composted element in the planting mix. So keep that in mind. The next thing is we added some Osmocote. We love Osmocote fertilizer. The reason being is that it is very long, slow release. I typically use the green cap formula. The reason being is that it's what they call a balanced fertilizer, and so it has the same amount of percentage of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in it, which helps all of these plants continue to grow, continue to flower well, and it feeds them all evenly. So that's a really good thing to have as well. In containers, well, we tend to water our containers a little bit more often than we water in the soil. So you probably have to apply Osmocote probably one time every 2 to 3 months in the summer. It's really not bad at all. So keep that in mind as well when you're fertilizing your container gardens. The other thing that we thought would be really helpful, especially for kind of drought, heat tolerant containers, is using Hydro-Retain. Hydro-Retain is kind of a new water saving material. It's all natural, don't get me wrong, and it's these small little granular pieces, and we added about a cup into the pot, mixed it in the top layer of the soil, and what it does is it actually will pull humidity and moisture from the air, so your plants don't dry out as quickly. It's phenomenal. It works really, really well. So even if you're planting a normal container combination and you think, I'm not around all the time to water this, Hydro-Retain might be a good product for you to use. Try it. It's really great. Okay, for plant material wise, we decided to go with a hot color combination. I'm going to tell you, Taylor wasn't real comfortable with it because she likes more of the softer colors and the pastels and so forth, and that's okay. But sometimes when you have those hot colors and it's really hot out, it just is a burst of color and really kind of, you know, your eye gravitates to it. So we thought it would be fun to do that. Especially we kind of used a lighter color pot underneath, and so that's nice when you can do hot colors on top and you have like a cooler pottery color underneath, whether it's white or like a light tan or maybe even a blue. That's always nice to kind of combine those two themes there, cool and hot. So in the middle for the thriller, we decided to use this CORDYLINE. This is Red Sensation. And I'm going to tell you, CORDYLINE look a little bit different from your typical Dracaena that we see in the garden center a lot, that we use as a spike. The CORDYLINEs tend to have a kind of thick base, and their leaves tend to be a little bit thicker and a little bit more stiff, almost like a yucca plant, if you think about a yucca. And so they can hold a little bit more water in their system than your average Dracaena. So keep that in mind when you're looking for a centerpiece or a thriller for a really hot, drier container garden. These will work really nicely. Also, any of your grasses. So we talk about the red cattail grass, which is called SEDUM rubrum. The grasses work really, really well in hotter, drier conditions as well. So keep that in mind for a nice thriller. I also like, and the celosia was almost there, but not quite tall enough for me. So I'm using it as a filler, excuse me. But celosia, whatever form you find celosia in, my gosh, this plant is tough. And it really can take some really good drought and some heat as well. So look for your celosias. This is Flamma Golden, and it is a nice bushy celosia. I'm really, really happy with the growth habit on this. Continues to flower, continues to bloom, and you have to do very little deadheading on it. These flowers will actually kind of dry there and look the same color, and it keeps looking great all through the season. So look for your celosias. They're a really good one for hot and dry. We also love flowering Vinca. This plant is Catharanthus. There's lots of different names for it. Sometimes we call it a sunny type impatient because it does have the same sort of habit and colors, if you will. Lots of different colors, but usually in the reds and pinks and whites, a little bit of purple range, but you never see, other than red, any other hot colors except like a fruity tropical punch color. So I wanted to use the red Vinca here. So I love that color. Down below, this is one of my favorite spillers for these hot and dry combos. It is a semi-succulent plant. This is actually called Drought-Tolerant, and this is Mizu, okay? Mizu is the variety, but we end up calling it Mizu because it's just a lot shorter name. Sometimes these are kind of classed in like a Livingstone daisy. Again, lots of different common names, but just say Mizu and we'll know what you're talking about. What I love about it is the succulent foliage, beautiful trailing here with this spiller. It does have these beautiful hot pink sort of daisy-like flowers at the tips here and through the plant, plus the variegated foliage. I always love foliage plants that provide you with some color, some texture, that you can kind of play in your container and place in your container just to get a little bit more interest in it. So I love this plant. Another filler slash spiller, I guess you could call it, is Lantana. There are so many different types of Lantana series, if you will, because some of them are kind of short and bushy, others are very long branched and a little bit more trailing. So it just kind of depends what color and what series you are into. All of them are great for those hot, sunny container gardens, no problem whatsoever. I think this is a shamrock, and Taylor will correct me. It's a shamrock, but I don't remember, it's orange something or other. So again, just beautiful multicolor, and I love to play with all the different colors that some of the Lantanas provide. Now, another thing that you should keep in mind is some of your tropical flowering plants are excellent for hot areas. And this is actually a mandinia, which is a cross between a mandevilla and a diplodenia, okay? They are members of the same family. It actually does grow up about 6 inches and then kind of produces some tendriline growth and then can trail down sometimes, or you can stick a little stake in there and just have it stand a little bit more upright for you. So depending on how you want to use it in your container garden, I think it's great. It could be a thriller, it can grow up a trellis, it could be a filler, you can kind of keep it more compact and sort of clip it, or it can be a spiller and you can let it kind of trail over the sides if you want. So look for those diplodenias or the mandinias. I think you'll really like them. And this, of course, is a beautiful red color with a yellow eye. In the back, I kind of wanted to balance the white variegation on Mizu with a white shamrock, Taylor? Shamrock white. See, I'm good. She's really catching me here. So shamrock white Lantana, kind of wanted to mimic that a little bit. So we put the white in the back, little bit of yellow coloration here in the eyes of this Lantana. Again, shamrocks seem to be a little bit more compact and bushy. So it's a nice plant for a filler. It looks great back here. That's all the plants for this container. We fit, so how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plants in a 14-inch Don't get me wrong, some of these were quart size, some of them were 4-inch size, so they were a little bit smaller, but they all have a little bit of spacing, and I always tell you, don't overplant in your containers, because when they really do start to fill out, one thing will kind of take over another. So make sure you have some spacing, some good soil spacing in between them, and just fill in around the plant material after you plant. Of course, water well, so the water is seeping out the bottom. Do that one more time. When the water stops coming out the bottom, do it one more time, thoroughly water, and let it go. And really from that point, set it out in that hot, sunny area and kind of measure the time of when it starts to kind of dry out. So the top layer of the soil, go down 1 inch deep with your finger. And when it's dry, it should be like, let's say about 3 to 5 to 7 days later, depending on weather. And then you can see how long it can go before the first plant starts to kind of wilt just slightly, and then you're going back and you're re-watering, okay? So keep that in mind. All of these plants will do very nicely if you can get them a little bit of time to slightly dry out. They don't want wet feet. None of them want wet feet. So keep that in mind, okay? Now, other plants that you can try, because there are so many wonderful annuals that will work very, very well in those hot and dry conditions and in containers or in the garden. I love this planter because, again, it shows you one of the little Dracaenas here, which is fine. That's your typical green Dracaena spike. But look at the Angelonia in here. And I kind of like the hot and the cool combo too. It's really, really pretty when you can mix some white or some silver in with your hot colors. So Angelonia is a great plant. Some of them are more upright growing, like this Wedgwood Blue. Some can be a little bit smaller and sort of semi-trailing, if you will, but really great plant for the hot summer months. This is what we call a summer snapdragon. So they really can kind of grow and take over and do wonderfully in those hot containers. Lantana, again, very hot colors. And then peeking through here is this really pretty Scaevola. And this is called Australian Fanflower. And Scaevola is so nice. It really has a succulent texture to it, almost similar to Mizu here. And it can hold a lot of water. So these plants can really do a nice job in those hot, sunny areas. Same with Dusty Miller. If you can grow any of the Dusty Millers, it doesn't matter if it's angel wings or your typical old-fashioned Dusty, they are phenomenal in hot, sunny spots. So keep that in mind. The zinnias. Zinnias grow great in full sun. They really do enjoy that. And I will tell you, when you get zinnias too wet, that's when you start to see some powdery mildews or some dying back on them. They don't like wet feet. So again, drier areas are awesome. We talked about the flowering Vincas here, but then the next one to it, look at this Penta. So this is a beautiful white Penta. We love the Pentas because, again, these are high nectar plants for butterflies, and I should say a lot of these plants are butterfly pollinator attractants, but the Pentas are really, really great for that kind of mid to late season color as well. This succulent down here is an annual sedum, and it's called Lemon Coral. Came out a few years from Proven Winners, and my gosh, if you want to plant that sedum in any container, in any bed, it will work great for you. It is very, very versatile in that it can grow in partial shade to full sun. Unlike many sedum, they really would like to be in more sunny conditions. It can also take the heat. It can also take a little bit more moisture. So this one's a good option too if you're looking to combine with some other plant material and get that bright chartreusey color. The Lantanas are over here. We have a lot of Lantanas, a lot of different colors. Again, a lot of different series of Lantanas out there. All beautiful coloring. Absolutely love it. And don't forget your sunflowers. So if you can get your hands on sunflowers kind of early season, like the Sunfinity sunflowers, they're repeat bloomers. They'll make great centerpieces for your combinations, and they do really wonderfully in the heat as well, as all sunflowers do. They love the sun, they love the heat. So basically you have a lot of options to choose from, a lot of flowering options that can really take a little bit more abuse, I should say, heat tolerance, drought tolerance, of course. And just remember, with some of these plant materials, you might have to wait a little bit longer. Some of them might not be ready quite at May when you're ready, mid-May, end of May when you're ready to plant. But soon after, you'll start to see them slowly but surely start to trickle in and become more prominent in the greenhouse because they really are, again, heat lovers. So it's when the heat and the sun really start to kick into gear is when you really start to see them come into the garden centers and just look gorgeous and be ready to plant. Okay, enjoy.